Gentlemen, as President of the African Union, I recently launched the Green Launch Programme for Africa, which aims to strengthen the measures concentrating on the viability of an environment and prosperity in Africa. Staying in fidelity of this ambition, we have taken specific measures. Increase our contribution, our NDC, bringing it up to 21% in terms of reduction of GHG, and this by 2030. We want to launch a program that looks to enhance and plant 1 million trees by 2023. We want to enhance our energetic mix by combining several types of energy: biomass, hydro, solar. The National Strategic Plan and other programs are based around this vision. Moreover, the protection of the rights of local communities and indigenous people is crucial. We want to take this into account in our strategy for industrialization when it comes to agricultural investments and the preservation of forests. Refocusing on agro-industrial products is crucial. We want to focus also on zones that are not forests. This shows the will of our country to preserve forests and local communities to ensure the rights of indigenous peoples. I'm encouraging structuring investments, and I look forward to seeing constructive partnerships directed towards the countries in this Congo region, which the Republic of Congo represents 60% of. Ladies and gentlemen, to close my speech, I would like to underline, aside from the urgency of the mobilization of key resources, we need to join more synergies in action and work together on all fronts. And this objective, the Democratic Republic of Congo approves the declaration of this summit and finds itself ready to work in partnership with other countries to be able to reach the goals that we have given ourselves. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. the President. Thank you very much for this declaration, which is not only about industrialization and clean energy, but also the need to take into account the indigenous peoples. I would now like the President of Gabon. You could go here to the left. Mr. the President, Ali Bongo, I know that you will explain the importance of everything you've been doing in terms of the declarations of Congo to preserve forests. Thank you for being here and all the goals that you have in mind to protect your dear forests. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, my country, Gabon, is a high forest, low deforestation country. Forests cover 88% of Gabon, with 21% in protected areas. A further 60% are protected and managed in sustainable forestry concessions. The National Biodiverse Rainforest harbor 2/3 of the rate for the forest elephants, an indication both of their biological significance and, of course, their sustained efforts to reinforce natural resource governance. Since Copenhagen, where I made a strong commitment to fight climate change, our economy has absorbed just over 1 billion tons of CO2 net. Managing forests, protecting our parks, monitoring our land for illegal logging and mining activity, and fighting organized crime and terrorist groups who plunder our natural resources is not easy. It requires constant vigilance, technical know-how, logistical capacity, sustainable funding, and, most importantly, courageous, dedicated, and courageable forest managers. In the absence of just one of these requirements, forests are progressively degraded and wildlife slaughtered. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Congo Basin is the heart and lungs of the African continent. We cannot win the battle against climate change unless we keep the Congo Basin forests standing. Furthermore, our forests send rain to the Sahel and to the Ethiopian highlands, feeding the Blue Nile and supporting agriculture in Egypt. They are critical to the stability both of the African continent and the world at large. Yet, the international community has consistently undervalued this critical ecosystem. For over the developed world has plundered our forests, extracting logs that have been the foundation for thriving industry outside the African continent. When a log leaves the African continent, we receive less than 10% of the potential value and create just 10% of the jobs at source. For every job in Africa, there are 9 offshore. I see a sustainable forestry and timber processing industry as our best chance to transition from oil economy. We plan to save the forest by exploiting it sustainably, by ensuring it contributes to the Gabonese economy and provide jobs for hundreds of thousands of Gabonese people. If we want our forests to survive, they must be valuable to our nation. I invite the world to come and invest responsibly in Gabon's timber economy. I urge the world to stand by our side in our efforts to protect and understand our forest ecosystems. I hope that together we can navigate the complex economy and political process underway here in Glasgow to fix an equitable carbon price for the net positive nations to encourage others to join our exclusive club. His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, speaking in Copenhagen in 2009, was kind enough to quote me as saying that the doors to the future are closing. IPCC tells us there is no valuable future without the tropical rainforest. It is my hope that Glasgow will mark a turning point and that together we will keep the forest standing and the door open for our children and their children. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, President Bongo. We have heard your message loud and clear, both in terms of the role of countries who have continued to preserve their forests, also the economic role of the forest and of those communities that live within the forest and those that can benefit from the forest. This very important point is something that we will continue to build on in terms of the commitments that we have made to Indigenous people and to the importance of both decarbonizing our economies and also ensuring that we create the carbon sinks that we need. So now I would like to invite Prime Minister Johnson to join at the lectern once again for a few reflections on these striking commitments that you have heard and the importance.
Thank you. Thank you again, Sandrine. And let me begin by thanking President Biden, for your fantastic commitment today, and also welcome the brilliant work that Presidents Bongo and Tshisekedi are doing to protect the Congo Basin. And I'm delighted to announce at this summit that the world is coming together around their effort, your effort, with at least $1.5 billion over the next 5 years to help protect the forests, peatlands, and precious ecosystems of Central Africa. And this is part of a new global forest finance pledge of over, wait for it, of over $12 billion, amounting to the biggest collective commitment of public funds for forest and climate action in history. And I thank my friends and colleagues for their leadership. And I say to everybody else here at this COP, let's end this great global chainsaw massacre by making conservation do what we know it can do, and that is deliver long-term sustainable jobs and growth as well. And today is not just a vital win in the struggle to contain global temperature increases, though obviously it's also a huge economic opportunity. And this is the long-term sustainable path to ending the loss of our forests, protecting our sacred biodiversity, and helping to keep alive the ambition of 1.5 degrees by the end of the century. The old poem goes, "Woodman, woodman, spare that tree. Touch not a single bough. In my youth it sheltered me, and I'll protect it now." And we should protect our forests not just out of gratitude for what they've done to protect us and in our youth, but for what they're going to do and to continue to do for our children and our grandchildren. And with their great green umbrageous canopy of leaves, they will not only help us to turn the tide in the fight against climate change, they will shelter the entire human race. Thank you all very much for what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and once again for very much demonstrating the excitement that we should be feeling today, both in terms of the Glasgow Declaration in protecting forests, but also the capital shifts that we are guaranteeing for the Congo Basin and also for other forests across the globe. I would like to now invite the Presidents of the United States, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Gabon to leave the stage towards the left. Thank you again, gentlemen, for your incredible leadership in the protection of forests.
Good job.
Thank you. You stay here with me.
I'm staying with you.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to sit down again.
Okay.
We are now transitioning to the very important role of philanthropy, of the private sector, and of investments that need to be coupled with public sector declarations. It is abundantly clear that we must do this together. Private, public sector, making the commitments, but also, as we've indicated, shifting the capital. It is therefore with great pleasure that I invite Mr. Jeff Bezos, Executive Chair of Amazon and Executive Chair of the Bezos Earth Fund, to join us on stage. Let us be clear. It is the philanthropic organizations that are now enabling us to bring some of the finance that we need to bear in this very important area. Thank you so much, Mr. Bezos, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me commend you, Prime Minister Johnson, for placing nature firmly on the agenda at COP26. Nature provides all the food we eat, the water we drink, and the oxygen we breathe. It gives us life. It is beautiful, but it is also fragile. I was reminded of this in July when I went into space with Blue Origin. I was told that seeing the Earth from space changes the lens through which you view the world. But I was not prepared for just how much that would be true. Looking back at Earth from up there, the atmosphere seems so thin, the world so finite and so fragile. Now, in this critical year, and what we all know is the decisive decade, we must all stand together to protect our world. Climate change gives us a powerful reason to invest in nature. Each year, forests and landscapes absorb 11 billion tons of CO2 from the atmosphere, helping to slow climate change. As we destroy nature, we reverse this process. Cut down a forest, destroy the mangroves, pave over the prairies, and instead of sequestering carbon, we emit it. In too many parts of the world, nature is already flipping from a carbon sink to a carbon source. This is a profound and urgent danger to us all. That's why last month in New York, 9 philanthropic organizations announced an additional $5 billion to support the goal of 30 by 30, to protect 30% of all land and sea by 2030. I was honored to be a part of this with a $1 billion pledge from the Bezos Earth Fund. And today, I'm pleased to announce a $2 billion pledge allocated directly to restoring nature and transforming food systems. This is part of the Bezos Earth Fund's $10 billion commitment to fight climate change, enhance nature, and advance environmental justice and economic opportunity. Together, this $3 billion in pledges will drive a new threefold nature agenda for the Bezos Earth Fund, focused simultaneously on conservation, restoration, and food transformation. We must conserve what we still have. We must restore what we've lost. And we must grow what we need to live without degrading the planet for future generations to come. In the atmosphere, molecules of carbon dioxide cause climate change and risk destroying life as we know it. But bring that carbon back down to Earth through the magic of photosynthesis into trees, plants, crops, and soil, and this brings life and vitality. Today, 2/3 of the land in Africa is degraded, but this can be reversed. Restoration can improve soil fertility, raise yields, and improve food security, make water more reliable, create jobs, and boost economic growth, while also sequestering carbon. Continent-wide initiatives like Africa 100 and the Great Green Wall offer significant hope. They must now be scaled up. Ahead of COP27 next year, the Bezos Earth Fund would be eager to participate in a concerted strategy led by African nations to seriously and effectively ramp up support for restoration on the continent. However, we cannot rely only on governments, NGOs, and philanthropies to solve the climate crisis. The private sector must also play its part to reduce carbon emissions. Companies need to take leadership positions. Amazon has co-founded the Climate Pledge with Christiane Figueres and set a goal to reach net zero carbon by 2040, 10 years ahead of the Paris Agreement goals. As part of this pledge, Amazon aims to power all its operations with 100% renewable energy by 2025 and is working to convert its delivery fleet to electric vehicles. Amazon is inviting other companies to join the Climate Pledge, and more than 200 have to date. Companies can also lead the way on nature-based solutions. Over the past 6 months, Amazon partnered with leading countries committed to protecting the tropical forests and their tropical forests and the governments of Norway, the UK, and the US to mobilize an unprecedented level of funding to fight tropical deforestation through an initiative called the Leaf Coalition. Amazon has committed significant financial support for Leaf, and the coalition will be signing letters of intent with governments that are ready to receive support. More details will be shared in the next session. Let me be clear. When people hanker for the good old days and glamorize the past, they are almost always wrong. By almost all metrics, life is much better today than it was in the past. Global poverty rates are lower, infant mortality and life expectancies are better, and education rates are higher. But there is a notable exception. The natural world is not better today than it was 500 years ago, when we enjoyed unspoiled forests, clean rivers, and the pristine air of the pre-industrial world. This is an unacceptable anomaly, and it's one we can reverse. The question is simple. Will we in this room work together, do the hard work together, to gift our children and grandchildren an improving natural world? I know the answer is yes, and I look forward to working with all of you on this important and rewarding journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bezos, for raising the bar on philanthropic money, funding capital shifts that go towards climate change, forests, and nature. You're playing an absolutely incredible role, and we thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We may all go out this way.
This is our time. We must all act together.
Уважаемый господин премьер-министр,
Dear Mr. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to welcome the participants on forestry and land use. I am convinced that the conservation of forests and other natural ecosystems is a key component of international efforts to address global warming and reduce emissions of greenhouse gases. This topic fits into the agenda of Glasgow Climate Change Conference. By aiming to build a carbon-neutral economy by no later than 2060, Russia is based, among other things, on the unique resources such as forest ecosystem, their capacity to absorb carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. After all, about 20% of the world's forests are located in our country. We take the most important measures to protect them. We improve forest management and fight illegal logging and forest fires. We are expanding reforestation areas. We have been consistently increasing financing in this area. Russia supports the draft joint declaration on forests and land use proposed for approval at today's meeting. We expect that its implementation would facilitate close partnership of all the stakeholders in the preservation of forests. And this will serve the goals of Paris Agreement to reduce carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. I would like to wish everybody success and all the best. Thank you.
Importantes para mim porque cobrem mais de 60% do meu país. São fonte de saúde e vida e abrigam as maiores riquezas naturais e a maior biodiversidade do planeta. Assumimos o compromisso de eliminar o desmatamento ilegal até 2030. Faço um chamado a todos os países para que ajude a defender todas as florestas, inclusive com recursos adequados, em benefício de todos.
Forests matter to me because Canada is the third most forested country in the world. La nature fait partie de notre identité. Canada is working to protect 30% of our lands and oceans by 2030. We're planting 2 billion trees. We're protecting and restoring wetlands, grasslands, and peatlands. And we're supporting Indigenous-led conservation and guardian programs. Ensemble, luttons contre les changements climatiques et la crise de la nature.
El Perú cuenta con 72 millones de hectáreas de bosques naturales. En el 56% de nuestro territorio se encuentran los pueblos indígenas que conviven con una flora y fauna mega diversa de la que viven y de la que los protegen ellos mismos. Por ello, el Perú apoya la declaración de Glasgow sobre los bosques, en tanto expresa nuestro compromiso en materia de conservación y uso sostenible de nuestra Amazonía en el contexto del cambio climático y la lucha contra la deforestación.
Les forêts et les tourbières du bassin du Congo, qui séquestrent la plus importante réserve de carbone au monde, constituent désormais la vanne d'aération essentielle et l'ultime bouclier écologique au service de l'Afrique et de l'humanité entière. Mon pays, la République du Congo, qui œuvre aux côtés d'autres États frères à la préservation et à la gestion durable de ces écosystèmes forestiers, en appelle à la solidarité agissante des partenaires techniques et financiers, ainsi qu'au respect des engagements pris dans le cadre de l'accord de Paris à l'effet de préserver durablement ce patrimoine commun.
Hello all. Papua New Guinea is home to 6 to 7% of world's biodiversity and the third largest tropical rainforest of the world, the lungs of the earth. The world needs oxygen. We need biodiversity for world's healing. We need our oceans to be healthy and pollution-free. And as the current chair of the Coalition for the Rainforest Nations, we stand committed to contributing to and ensuring that we keep the Paris Agreement goal alive and achievable. We believe that mobilizing resources and forging partnerships is key to the actions that we have to undertake domestically to implement the Paris Agreement beyond Glasgow. We are committed to protecting our forests and be the leader in ensuring the immense amount of carbon cleansing forest is intake for our future generation. Thank you and God bless you all.
Forests matter to me because they have the best technology we have for removing CO2 from the atmosphere and storing carbon. They also provide priceless ecosystem services. We must all work together to find ways to keep them standing.
Dear Excellencies, forests matter. Our mere survival depends on them. In Costa Rica,
Climate change mitigations. Our climate commitment to maintain 45% of forest cover can enhance the sink of emissions and with additional measures make Nepal a carbon neutral nation. Participation in this declaration reforms Nepal's commitment to the global cause for protecting and restoring our forests that are critical to tackling the climate crisis. Thank you.
Forests matter to me personally. In fact, I make many of my decisions and thinking while walking in the Oslo forest. So not only do we need good policy decisions for forests, we also need forests for good policy decisions. That is why I'm pleased to join the Glasgow Leaders' Declaration. Keeping 1.5 degrees alive gives us no choice. We have to halt and reverse global forest loss this decade.
Notre planète fait l'objet de mutations inquiétantes dues aux effets du changement climatique. La République démocratique du Congo, mon pays, avec son massif forestier, ses tourbières, ses ressources en eau et en minerais stratégiques, se présente comme un pays solution à la crise climatique. C'est pourquoi j'appelle les leaders et décideurs du monde entier à agir ensemble, main dans la main, afin que nous préservions ce patrimoine naturel essentiel à la survie de l'humanité.
Australia is the only nation in the world with a continent all to ourselves. There's a vastness and a wonder about our land, from wide dry open plains to the lush rainforests. The landscape and its beauty is part of who we are as a people, as it has been for our Indigenous Australians for thousands of years. Forests matter to Australia and Australians. They are sources of life as well as livelihoods here and around the world. So we must care for them and we must sustain them. By supporting this declaration today in Glasgow, Australia commits to working collectively to ensure there is no net loss of forests around the world. I understand the different circumstances we all face, but I want to affirm today that Australia is committed to reducing deforestation. Our forests are part of our pact with future generations, and we'll lead by example through our cooperative international work program. We will work with partners to combat illegal logging and promote the sustainable use of forests. Our forests and forest products can play a vital role in meeting our global climate challenges through the carbon they capture and store. And they matter to all of us as individuals too. Indeed, Sir David Attenborough puts it, when humankind as a whole is in a position to give back to nature as much as we take and repay some of our debt, well, we'll be able to lead more balanced lives. So Australia is pleased to join this global effort to promote the sustainable management of forests.
Forests matter to Austria because they are an essential part of Austria's biodiversity, our history, of our sense of home, in German, Heimat. Almost half of the surface of Austria is covered by forests. They have formed our landscape over centuries. They provide protection from avalanches in alpine regions. They give home and shelter to some of the most precious species we have in Europe, lynx, wolf, bear, etc. Forests are indispensable for our well-being and our future. Let's work on keeping it that way.
En el marco de esta conferencia de las Naciones Unidas sobre el cambio climático del 2021, en la que hemos sido invitados a unirnos a la Declaración de Bosques y Uso de la Tierra, quiero destacar que Uruguay otorga una gran importancia a los bosques, porque son fundamentales para la vida en la tierra, capturan carbono, conservan la biodiversidad, proveen sombra y abrigo, alimentos y medicinas. Son esenciales para nuestras costas, para la producción agropecuaria, para la calidad del agua y de nuestros suelos. Nuestros bosques nativos constituyen tanto a la adaptación necesaria para hacer frente al cambio climático como a la reducción de emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero, en consonancia con los objetivos del Acuerdo de París. Es por ello que Uruguay se compromete a continuar una gestión forestal que promueva a la protección, conservación, restauración y manejo sostenible de sus bosques nativos.